If you mean business, subscribe to Business Desk, your deep dive into New Zealand business, the markets, finance and the economy. Subscribe today at businessdesk.co.nz.
You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB.
Let's get you to Australia, our regular Australian correspondent, this time every Saturday, Adam Peacock out of codesports.com.au. Adam, a couple of interesting issues to touch on today. Let's start with the NRL's Magic Round. It's on this weekend in Brisbane, all 8 games being played at Suncorp Stadium. This seems to be something a few Australian codes are trying. The AFL did it in Adelaide, Super Rugby in Melbourne. Not that that's necessarily an Australian competition, that's a New Zealand-Australia competition. The NRL are doing it in Brisbane. This is a good idea, isn't it?
A-League should do it in Sydney as opposed to hosting a grand final here, but that's by the by. I love the idea. It was actually nicked from the English Super League, Rugby League, a couple of years ago. They've always done it, and it's a great weekend. And there were a few people screaming who saw it over there and thought, well, do this. Why not do this? And then eventually, a couple of years ago, they took it to Brisbane. It's a raging success. It's now become like a real date on the calendar, which people can plan for. It's a fantastic idea. All the games at Suncorp. The only downside, I would say, is the fact that the pitch, I'm not sure the pitch is going to hold up because they've had some issues with the turf up there at Suncorp. But apart from that, it's a great advertisement for the game. And, good on the NRL for trying it because it certainly worked. Yeah,
I want to talk A-League semis in a minute, but or final series rather in a minute. But has there been any noise that the A-League might do something similar and bring it to Sydney, which seems the obvious place?
Yeah, or look, Melbourne could have it. I think one year maybe over in New Zealand could have it. I'm not sure if they wanted to move it around, but it's something that you can certainly sell to a government easily if that's what it's about and getting some revenue in, because it'll heighten what all governments want, and that's people coming into their state and helping out the tourism industry. So there's no concrete talk that they're going to do it, but for me it's a no-brainer given the blow-up about taking away grand final hosting rights to the team that deserves it, what's always happened in the A-League, to then do what they did and that's sell the grand final. I think it's a perfect compromise, but I'm not at that level in terms of commercial negotiation. But the point is, for rugby league, it works, and we've seen it with AFL last week or the week before in Adelaide. It worked. They've signed a 3-year deal down there. Yeah, they're good ideas.
All right, let's go to cricket. Steve Smith playing some county cricket for Sussex in the build-up to this year's Ashes. I think he made his debut in the last 24 hours or so against Worcester. But what happened with his helmet? Did something delay his debut?
Yeah, he got out there and the umpire said, Steve, you don't have the regulation neck guard on, which is that area just behind the earlobe that kind of protects that area. And I think it got heightened when that tragic event with Phil Hughes happened at the SCG a number of years ago. But Steve Smith actually tried it, and from memory, he doesn't like the feeling there. But when he got out for his first knock for Sussex, the umpire said, mate, you're not regulation. We have rules here that means you have to do that. So anyway, it like a 5-10 minute delay, and the crowd was getting restless and things like that. Anyway, Steve got his eye in and then got a pretty dicey decision LB for 30. So he got used to the condition, like nearly 60 balls at the crease, but it could have been more. I think he feels it should have been more the way that he reacted to being given out LB.
I've seen him in the past, and I think this is right. When he doesn't get 100, he punishes himself having to run back to the team hotel. It's a pretty high bar.
Yeah, and I dare say right now it's the middle of the night over in the UK. There is a big chance at his accommodation he is up and shadow batting in his room. He's pretty fastidious with his preparations, his thoughts about cricket, old Stephen.
Absolutely right. You can't wait for the Ashes later in the year. And back to the A-League. The Wellington Phoenix dipped out of the A-League finals last night, beaten 2-0 by Adelaide. But a Sydney derby tonight is the other elimination final. First time these two teams have met in a finals match. What's the chat around about this one?
Yeah, there's a bit of hype in Sydney. Now, look, because of the grand final decision by the APL, that some active fans in particular are boycotting, and I think the Sydney FC fans are pretty adamant that they're not going to congregate as one and make a heap of noise, whereas the RBB, the Western Sydney active support, they're going. Mind you, the RBB sat through 7 years of dross, so they're finally back in the finals. I don't want to miss it. Look, there's no right way or wrong way here. It's totally personal choice. I get both points of view. But I think there's going to be a pretty hot atmosphere there, which would be good. First ever finals game for a Sydney derby. I do like Western Sydney. I think they're just a step ahead, and they've proven it across the season. But it's an elimination game. Stupid things can happen in tight games of football, and Sydney have to be better than the last time they met because they got absolutely pumped at home. I think it was 4-0 by Western Sydney. But, good game. And shame for Wellington last night. Adelaide just a little too good, but it shouldn't diminish what Ufi Talay has done at that club. I'm sure you mentioned it during your show, but a tremendous job. And I can't work out how he's going to be able to work for too long in the A-League if a job opportunity pops up, because he'd be the perfect candidate for about every club over here.
Yeah, and I just wanted to pick up on that because Steve Corica was under immense pressure at Sydney FC during the season, but he's got the team into the top six, which I guess is an achievement of sorts. If, for example, though, Adam, they were to dip out tonight to Western Sydney, I think Stevie Corica's got another year left on his contract, but we know what they're worth in professional sport. Is it possible Ufi Talay might end up back at Sydney, which is where he kind of earned his stripes, I guess, as an assistant to Steve Corica?
Absolutely. Yeah, it is possible. And you don't want to death ride a coach, and Steve Corica is a good guy, and he's got the opportunity to do something with his team still this season. But I saw it with Kevin Muscat at Melbourne Victory. They got absolutely towed by Sydney in a semi-final a few years ago, and that was the end of him. They reached a mutual agreement at the club and thought, let's for both of us, because Muscat, club legend at Melbourne Victory, Corica, club legend at Sydney FC, let's not damage ourselves here both. Let's walk away now. That could happen with Corica if things go totally awry tonight against Western Sydney. There's also the possibility of down in Melbourne Victory. Not sure what Tony Popovich is going to do. Victory have just cleaned out their backroom staff, so I'm not sure if Popper's hanging around. If he is, but there's a possibility there. But yeah, Ufi Talay's just got to be patient because something will pop up, and to me, he's prime candidate number one to take the job wherever an opportunity pops up.
Great to chat as always, Adam. Thanks for bringing us up to date with all matters Australian sport. We'll do it again next Saturday.
Sounds good. Cheers, Piney.
Cheers, Adam. Adam Peacock, codesports.com.au is where you can read him and hear him every Saturday afternoon around 1:45ish here on Weekend Sport.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.
Hello, I'm Liam Dan, Business Editor-at-Large for the New Zealand Herald, and I'm back with another season of my podcast, Money Talks. In this series, we're not going to tell you how to get rich. We're not going to try and pick the next interest rate move. Instead, I'll be talking to some interesting New Zealanders about how money has shaped their lives and what they've learned about it through the years. Join us every Saturday for a new chat with an exciting range of guests from the world of business, politics and entertainment. You can find Money Talks with me, Liam Dan, wherever you get your podcasts.